Welcome to Prisca Theologia. Today we're going to be discussing how the soul simultaneously exists within multiple realms of existence at once, and how to navigate and to travel between these two realms of existences. So every day in the waking state, when we wake up, we have the sense of I am that is bestowed upon us, and we move and we have our being, which all has to do with the sine wave and how from the monad, the dyad is projected, the two, and that energy that's projected into redshift, blue shift starts at Aries and produces this 12ness. So instead of like a duality within this duality, this dualistic spectrum, we have the 12. And within this 12, we have the 12 zodiac, with which each gives us a particular function of intelligence, similar to a flower, like the petals on a flower. So you have the flower, the middle of the flower, and then the 12 petals, which would be the 12 qualities that blossom from that occurrence that takes place. So within this dimension, we have the waking state, where we go about as a conscious individual entity, contracted or contracted to a physical body or an individualized physical organism, which is a machine that is manifested from all the five elements. So space, fire, water, earth, air, all comes together to form a vessel, which a particular I am consciousness is attached to. So one realm that you exist in is the physical waking state. A second realm that you exist in is the astral state, or the emotional state, where you have, you could take off in a daydream. You're taking off on trips. You're doing all different things within your realm of being within yourself that actually has its own light. It has its own sun. It has its own sidewalks. It has its own beings, its own characteristics, but it's more subtle and outside of the physical dimension. However, it's a reflection of the physical dimension, similar to like water, the reflection of the sky. So that astral realm, you're always living in it from every moment of your life. Even right now in the waking state, there's a part of you that's coexisting in the astral plane. And you can tone into this by tapping into your filling in your heart chakra, or when you're doing mantra magic, like with the vowel ah as in ah, that internal breath, that vocal sound will help tap you into your astral realm. So you're living in the waking state. Even while you're awake, you're coexisting in that astral space. Now, when you go to sleep, you're going to be shutting down from the waking state. It's going to become numb. The waking state gradually disappears. And between those states of consciousness, the witness, or the being that you are, slowly slips into the astral plane, which you already were coexisting in, but now the conscious focus has changed. And now you're now in the astral dimension. When you're in the astral dimension, you lose your discrimination. So you can't necessarily choose. Your sense of control is gone. So you have to awaken that sense of control and that discipline here in the conscious waking state, while you have the I am intact with the human body, to be able to gradually strengthen that nerve, or strengthen that spiritual nerve or muscle, to be able to carry over to the astral plane, so that you can take that discriminatory factor to the astral plane. Why do we need to do this? So that we can extract information about our being, our purpose, and why we're here from the astral dimension, and bring it to the waking state intact. Usually when we wake up from a dream, we lose all the important information that we had. And in that state of unconsciousness, we come on and we wake up and we continue another dream in the waking state, which is just a more dense dream reality, but it is collective amongst other souls. So Marsilio Ficino, one of the greatest syncretists ever, the 14th century, he wrote that the physical dimension is how the spiritual dimension is seen and how it's communicated with. So simply understanding natural phenomenon, like understanding the seasons and the cycles of the day, like the sun comes up at 6 o'clock, it reaches its highest abode at 12, it starts to descend at Libra 6 p.m. And then at midnight, it goes into the underworld of like Scorpio and Capricorn. It ends to come up in Pisces to resurrect again in Aries in spring. That's how the sun on the ecliptic goes as it goes through its abode. It goes from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. And then, of course, it goes all the way back to Pisces to the feet and reoccurs again in spring. So the year is always happening. But the day is always happening as well, because this akins to 6 a.m. Aries to Taurus, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Each one has 2 hours. So like in the Cancer Leo area, we have 12 o'clock where noon, where the sun is shining at the highest part of the sky. But at the same time, we have that on a monthly cycle of summer where the sun is very strong. So if we take that on a soul individual level, we can pierce through it and understand that spiritually, that is referring to a spiritual phenomenon of soul growth, soul maturation, that our soul is born into the material realm and matures to a point of degree, begins to decline, only to be born again or to be resurrected into a new form. In the Upanishads, it said that the spirit of Brahman is always seeking new, fairer forms. It discards one form and goes to a more subtle, fairer form according to its actions in the realm of good and evil. See, the soul descended from the highest abode of purity down into the dimensions of pleasure and pain and good and evil, and everyone partakes in a certain sense of good and evil, or light and dark. And after these givings and happenings of charitable acts as well as trespasses take place, this is calculated and taken into the astral body. Everything is coded and enters into the astral body, and then that astral body is a matrix that plans the next physical effect that takes place. So every time your astral dimension, whatever is taking place in your emotions and your astral being, is going to crystallize in the physical dimension. It's only a matter of time. So you have to constantly be working with this dimension that you're in moment to moment, because even right now, you are existing within your astral realm, even if you're awake in the waking state. The third level of consciousness that people exist in is the another dimension that we exist in is the dreamless state. Now, this state of being is complete sleep, complete unconsciousness. When you're in the dreamless state, you're no longer having images or taking part in activities, but you're in a state of rest. You come to a state of complete motionless. This is, in a sense, in the tomb, or something that like a cocoon, because when you increase your consciousness through the process of alchemy, and when you conserve your energy and do and follow your inner being, follow God's commandments, follow the highest truths that is set forth by the spiritual realm, then these faculties begin to unfold and unlock and blossom within you, so that this unconscious dreamless state becomes a state of awareness, and you enter the state of Sat Chit Ananda, which is consciousness, bliss, existence. And here is where you'll always keep your individual form, but it will now be crystallized from the cocoon of human life. Because Alvin Boyd Kuhn, in the book, The Lost Key to the Scriptures, he exposes how in the ancient writings, physical life and to be incarnated into this physical dimension was the death of the soul, that the soul, the spiritual entity, has to die in some way, degrade itself from its highest, more subtle form. And by doing that, it is sacrificed into a lower organism, the physical realm. And because the soul is immortal and can't die, this is the closest thing that we experience as death. So the mystery is that when we die in this physical realm on our last day of this life of the waking state, when we go to sleep to never wake up again, that will be our time of true life, because the true life will be after the cocoon period, because we're in a period of cocoon or gestation or fermentation in this realm, this womb. And these individual souls are incarnating their higher individualities by sacrificing their ego. Now, the ego is the natural manifested physical phenomenon personality that's made in the first, it's the survival mechanism. And then you have the personality, which is developed in the first 7 years of being. So the spiritual individuality is working to use the ego, working to dissolve the ego and spiritualize the personality. This is the symbolism of the transfiguration of Jesus when his light was shining like light. And this is how the sun, the inner sun, reacts in your body to make these conscious spiritual changes happen within you as you go on your life journey, because as above, so below. These anagological phenomena that are taking place in the heavens are also taking place within you on a deep soul level. So here, page 27 of Keys to Lost Scriptures, Plato himself said that men are placed in the body as in a prison. He even considered the body as a shelter of the soul, an idea that carried one step farther the ancient Egyptians' representation of the body personalized in the goddess Hathor as the birdcage of the soul. That this imprisonment was equated with the idea of death to the soul is clearly expressed by Taylor, who, in commenting on the writings of Macrobius, writes, "The soul in the present life may be said to die as far as it is possible for a soul to die, occultly intimating that the death of the soul was nothing more than a profound union with the ruinous bounds of the body. To impart to the body its life by linking to it the soul's more dynamic voltage, nature exacted from the higher principle the planetary quantum of its life, to be offered as an oblation for the benefit of the lower order. So the body lived the death of the soul, as the soul died unto the life of the body, as Hercules would have put it. All this explicitly set forth in the apt parapsychology by Taylor, who in his select works by Porphyry says, what it here is said by Plato is beautifully unfolded by Olympiodorus in the MS commentary on Gorgias as follows: that to live is to die, and to die is to live. For the soul coming hither as she imparts life to the body, so she partakes through this of a certain privatum of life, but this is an evil. When separated, therefore, from the body, she lives in reality, for she dies here through participating in privatation of life, because the body becomes the source of evils, and hence it is necessary to subdue the body. So analogically, sons of God gave their life for the physical organisms to live. Because the body was considered a physical tomb, even the Egyptian word for body was soma or sema, meaning tomb. And we know that this tomb restricts the soul from certain abilities, but this restriction is to give us strength to understand the knowledge of good and evil. We bit the apple to incarnate into this dimension, and now we simultaneously live within the three realms of the waking state, the dream state, and the dreamless state. And once we acquire full knowledge of ourselves in these three states and uncover them, we uncover the truth, the fourth state, which is not really a state, but the producer of the three states, which is the witness. And each individual soul has their own individual witness. And this individual witness is the Krishna or the Christ. And this Krishna or Christ sustains our being and helps the individual soul reach its full potential to merge with the para-atman, which will then merge with the super soul and then live in the highest abodes of the Spirit of God, or Brahman, or the Father. Various names for this highest abode. So this is how the physical soul coexists in three different realities at once. And by navigating them and bringing conscious awareness to them, especially at the times before sleeping and waking, we have to bring all of our conscious attention to the moment right before we fall asleep, or the moment right as we wake up. Instead of just simply opening our eyes and moving when we wake up, we have to sit in the stillness and exist and bring consciousness to the point of existence that we are traveling in between these states of existences, because they're actually portals to different realms, different dimensions. We've always been curious and wanting to experience different dimensions and different realms, and they've been in front of us the whole time, always waiting for us to knock and the door shall be open, to listen, to watch, to be able to see that on a daily basis we can train ourselves to bring consciousness In the Bible, Jesus is always telling us to keep watch and pay attention. It's in these moments of high alertness, of this. It's in these moments that we attain to these high states of consciousness and are able to be able to see the truth of the inner being for what it is, without being distracted by the limitations of the ego and the mechanisms of the physical body, because the urges, the desires, the thoughts, the emotions, the memories are all subduing the realization of the being. And once the body and the mind are subdued and all thoughts are brought down and subdued, then the spirit or the inner witness reigns supreme, and we become able to commune with that higher aspect of our being and see things from an archetypal level rather than just the realm of thoughts. So if we can bring conscious awareness from moment to moment in the physical waking state, this will consciously carry over to the realm of dreams, and we can begin to discriminate there and be able to extract knowledge, extract gnosis, extract valuable gems of information and bring them with us. And we need to document them and write them down as we wake up, so that throughout the years we have a streamline of astral events that have taken place. And we can analyze these astral events and see how they are reflected into our waking state. Once we investigate and become conscious investigators of how the astral realm is the cause of this physical realm and how phenomena are reflected in them, just like the moon, or I wouldn't say the moon is a source of its own light, but it does utilize the light of the sun as a source. I would say more like Pisces, the two waters, the sky of the water of the sky and the waters below, and how they reflect and how they're both seen within each other. And when we pierce into this dimension and become awakened to the astral realm, we can manipulate and consciously make decisions in the astral plane that will help us navigate and guide us in the physical realm, because we'll be able to be in contact with higher intelligences that are able to help us in our goal and our mission to manifest and bring down the spiritual qualities of our particular archetype down into the physical realm of Malkuth or physical incarnation to be carried out in action. So this is what life is about, a constant transmission from the causal realm to the realm of effects, from the invisible realm to the realm of the seen. And we have to, like in the Upanishad says, the soul is always traveling between the waking state, the dream state, and then the dreamless state. And that the astral plane is the mid-garden or the separation of from the waking state, the mortal realm, the astral plane, and then the celestial spiritual sky, which is above that, the realm of the immortal spirit. So the astral plane is not the highest abode. And a lot of people mistake this to be the highest place to go. So just because we awaken in the astral plane doesn't mean that we've made it yet, because we still have to transmute that lunar body, the desire body, it's still considered a body of sin. The four bodies of sin are the physical body, the ego, the mental body, the astral body, because they all need to be spiritualized by the Christ. And when the Christ spiritualizes these functions, that they're purified and taken to their higher form. So the lunar realm, that realm of those nightmares and those dreams that are nothing but desires and manifestations of light and dark without discrimination, we bring light into that and purify it, and becomes a solar realm. So we have to solarize the astral body, solarize the mental body, solarize the physical body, solarize the energetic body by continually sacrificing for humanity, trial and tribulation to raise the chrism to its highest abode. Because as the Gnostics have taught, each time it raises a vertebrae, an initiation is conquered. We have to conquer something within ourselves to allow the energy to rise. And as the energy rises and reaches to the top, the blood of the Christ is shed and the blood is purified. But those existential spiritual bodies, which have their foundation in the physical body, are being purified by those spiritual essences, and essentially becoming crystallized and permeated so that they could be of good use to us rather than just using them at their lowest levels. We have to bring that kinetic charge to them so that they can lift us to our highest levels of consciousness and they can actually be used. Because when the mental body's in full use, you can use your imagination and willpower as well as your mind to actually enter into a mental body and to independently move about and have activities without your physical body even having to move. It takes place in the mental dimension, which is the realm of thought, which is way more subtle and less laws than the realm of astral, of emotions. So these different dimensions of your being, these are what you're tapping into, and this is what you're trying to develop. You have to develop them with concentration, with to understand, observe, to self-observe, and to self always to reflect on your inner self as a spiritual being in a human body. And once this takes place, you'll be able to navigate in between these realms and create an interface between them so that the information flows correctly.